When you joined the co-op, I am sure you heard the term democratic decision-making. The ability to control your work environment and business is probably one of the biggest reasons you joined. Let's look at what that really means and how this process works for the good of the co-op and its members. It might be helpful to think about a worker cooperative, or any organization for that matter, as a mode of transportation, like a bus or a ship. A ship, just like a cooperative, must have a purpose and a destination. It carries passengers or members who are all invested in getting there, and it carries the crew that controls it. But who gets to choose the direction of the ship in a worker co-op? This process is called governance. Cooperative governance is the act of steering the co-op business toward economic, social, and cultural success. Because worker co-ops are controlled by the people who work there, equality is essential. That's why democratic decision-making is the bedrock of cooperative governance. It's embedded into laws, it's rooted in all co-op practices, and it's there to ensure that all members get to equally participate in choosing the direction of the ship. While worker members are the foundation of any cooperative, the law does require that they designate special decision-makers called board of directors. In many ways, the board sets the course for the future of the organization. They vote on policies, hire managers, create budgets, and keep the co-op true to its mission. While some co-ops prefer that all members are on the board, most of them, especially those larger than 20 members, elect a smaller group to serve on the board of directors. The board may appoint people to specific roles. For example, president, vice president, treasurer, secretary. But no matter what role you are in, if you are on the board of directors, you must adhere to 3 legal obligations: duty of obedience, duty of care, and duty of loyalty. Duty of obedience simply means following the laws, both external and ones set by the co-op. It's the board's responsibility to ensure that the cooperative adheres to the bylaws, if it's a corporation, or to the operating agreement, if it's an LLC, that were created and approved by the members. Duty of obedience is the beacon that guides the board of directors in fulfilling one of their most essential duties, staying true to what members intended by advancing the co-op's mission and purpose. Duty of care requires that the board lead the cooperative with the same care and consideration that an ordinary, prudent person would use. Prudent simply means exercising good judgment and being careful. A fundamental way to impart this care is to actively participate in meetings, which includes reviewing documents and asking questions. When you weigh your decisions carefully and act in good faith, it should help you do what's best for the cooperative, now and in the future. The prudent person standard recognizes that directors are not legal or accounting professionals. But if a legal, financial, or other issue arises, it is expected that they will consult with a professional in the field. Voting is another important aspect. Here, director participation is key. For any decision to be valid, at least a majority of directors must be present to vote. The number of decision makers needed for a vote to be valid is called a quorum. Some cooperatives set their quorum at a majority, or 51%, while others go for a higher percentage, such as 75%. Duty of care also requires you to monitor the finances. A co-op should have a bookkeeping system and a bookkeeper that provides board members with monthly financial statements. Directors must review those statements and ask questions so they can carefully manage not only the co-op's money, but everything else it owns. While the treasurer or a finance committee can be tasked with the nitty-gritty, every director is expected to read and understand the financial reports. Last but not least is duty of loyalty. It prescribes that directors put the good of the co-op first and avoid even the appearance of a real, potential, or implied bias. When you make a decision with bias, it is a conflict of interest. This happens when a person uses their position as a director for personal gain or profit. That can include providing favor to a family member or a friend. Even with the appearance of a conflict of interest, you must disclose it and then either abstain or recuse yourself. To abstain means you remove yourself from voting. To recuse means you remove yourself both from the discussion and the vote. Most of the time, recusal is best. Let's take a look at this example. Boat Builders Co-op builds and sells new ships, but they need a new source for lumber. The board of directors formed a committee to find a source of sustainable, durable, and reasonably priced lumber. Elizabeth is not on the committee, but one of the lumber companies on the shortlist is owned by her brother. A twist to this is that another director, Susanna, used to be married to Elizabeth's brother. What should Elizabeth and Susanna do? Disclose. Each of them should let the board know about their relationships. Recuse. Each of them should recuse themselves because of implied bias. In recusing, Elizabeth and Susanna leave the room during the discussion and the vote about the lumber. So now that we know the basics about the board of directors, let's look at how other types of co-op members get to equally participate in the decision-making process. Member workers are equally important in co-op governance. It's the members who elect the board of directors, serve on committees, approve initial and proposed changes to bylaws or operating rules, and approve the annual budget. Any decision involving members to vote must have a quorum for it to be valid. This quorum typically ranges from 20 to 50% or more and is usually based on the size of the co-op. Let's look at this diagram. We have the members, who create the laws and set the overall course for the cooperative. They elect the board of directors, who make important decisions and maintain the overall vision set forth by the members. But there is yet another important group that keeps things running smoothly, and that's management. Co-ops need to coordinate a variety of complex processes to assure smooth sailing. This includes making sure that customers are served, workers are paid, and rules are followed. Sometimes this is done through a committee, but most often the cooperative will designate a person as a manager. Most of the time, the manager is a member, but sometimes they are hired from the outside. Non-member managers are more common in larger co-ops. The roles of management should be clearly defined in the bylaws or the operating agreement. Managers are given authority and responsibility, but the board of directors has oversight. The responsibilities of management include supporting day-to-day operations, like assuring that the business operates during posted hours, all necessary supplies are at hand, quality work is performed, and customers are satisfied. The manager is able to meet these responsibilities by enforcing the rules established by members. In this way, the management completes the circle. Members elect the board of directors, the board of directors hires and supervises the manager, and the manager coordinates the smooth operation of the co-op while overseeing the members. The structure of the worker cooperative is rooted in democracy, equitable profit sharing, and policies that prioritize positive working conditions. In this environment, trust in leadership and among workers is vital. Co-op loyalty and consistency are a great way to cultivate that trust. When directors make important decisions on behalf of members, it's not uncommon for them to have different perspectives. But to come to the best decision together, they need to listen to each other and accept diversity as a strength. The idea of consensus is a great tool to use for that purpose. Consensus is a general agreement that is reached through respect, listening, and compromise. The board always strives for consensus, and when that is unattainable, the decision can be made by a majority vote. The board should strive to speak with one voice. When directors practice mutual respect, speaking with one voice is not difficult. As leaders, directors are representing the very idea of cooperation that they want to see. When directors are united, it helps members to be united. Democratic processes rooted in open dialogue and listening create awesome workplace cultures that are positive, productive, and ultimately long-lasting. So how can we cultivate a deeper sense of cooperation? Let's look at some existing and very useful strategies. Meeting agenda. A list of topics to be discussed in the meeting. Topics are organized and the agenda is shared before the meeting starts. Each topic indicates a person responsible for it and has an allotted time. The meeting begins with everyone accepting the agenda. Recorder. A secretary or another person who takes meeting minutes so that there is a record of all the decisions. Minutes should include a date, time, location, and who's in attendance. They should focus on highlights like decisions and action items. Designating a facilitator and a timekeeper. The facilitator leads the meeting, keeps the agenda on track, and encourages diverse participation. A timekeeper helps everyone to stay within the allotted times. Talking stick. This strategy allows space for each person to share their perspective. The person who has the talking stick is the only person who has permission to speak. The person with the stick must stay on topic, but they speak from their heart rather than reacting to others. While the stick is passed, there is no discussion, just attentive listening. Once each person has an opportunity to speak, the group can discuss. Stack. People who'd like to speak raise their hand, and the facilitator recognizes that by placing them in a list or a stack. They will get their turn to speak in the order they were placed in the stack. Parking lot. Off-topic comments are validated by placing them in the parking lot for future discussion. Committees. Committees can greatly increase meaningful participation by all members and are particularly effective for decisions that involve planning or research. Some examples of common committees include budget or finance, recruitment, and evaluation. But sometimes the co-op will create committees that are temporary and ad hoc, such as one to identify options for a new office or to consider a new business idea. We hope you find these tools helpful. And remember, cooperatives are first and foremost cooperative. This is reflected in everything they do, but especially in governance. Democratic decision-making is embedded in the foundation. That means there is no one person who gets to captain the entire ship. Everyone is involved in selecting the destination, plotting the course, and doing the actual work of getting there.